Well, hello there, and welcome to Continuing the Conversation, live from the APWA Expo floor at the Expo Experience. My name is Emily Barta, and I am going to be your host for this conversation. And it truly is a conversation. This is your chance to ask your questions and get your voice heard. So everyone here with us in Denver, we're going to be having a chat with Chris Champion about asset management for small, rural, and remote communities, and we want to hear what you have to say. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, what have you, go ahead and raise your hand. We'll bring that microphone over to you and make sure that we get your voice heard. Or if you are on Twitter and you prefer not to hear your voice on the microphone, you can tweet us at hashtag APWAExpo. For everyone at home, you know the drill. You've got two different ways to participate, either via Twitter with that APWA Expo hashtag or via the Q&A button in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. So let's welcome Chris Champion to Continuing the Conversation. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Institute of Public Works Engineering Australia. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Emily.
Now, on Sunday at 3 o'clock, you had a session here at APWA Congress, an exposition called Asset Management for Small, Rural, and Remote Communities. And you're from Sydney, Australia, which is not small, it's not remote, and it's not rural. So
True.
How did you get involved in all of this?
In my role as the CEO of the Institute of Public Works Engineering Australia, IPWEA is like the Australian version of APWEA.
Okay.
So we're very active in a number of areas, but probably asset management is our largest area. It's been responsible for the major growth of our organisation. And initially we developed some tools and templates for the bigger communities, the bigger cities, but we found that there was a big need to provide some assistance to the smaller communities.
Okay.
So about 35% of local governments in Australia, we have about 180 out of 560 local governments in Australia, actually have a population of less than 5,000. So we simplified all our tools and templates down to provide a more easier assistance to small communities, remote communities, to implement asset management.
So talk to me about these tools, these templates, these techniques. What are they?
It starts off with a workbook, but it's more than a workbook. We provide log-on access to a website so that the people or the communities who have our subscribe to our program can log on to the website. They can download the tools and templates, which are just Word documents and Excel spreadsheets, so It's nothing too complicated. There's also probably about 5 how-to guides where we take them through how to develop an asset register or how to fill in the expenditure template. In addition to that, there's by working through the program, they put all their details into a spreadsheet using our workbook as a guide.
Okay.
Then they send that Excel spreadsheet to us. We upload it to the website, and they can and we do some simple modelling, online modelling, and they can use that information, copy and paste it back into the Word document as the graphs and the calculations for projecting of what they need into the future.
And what is the benefit of them doing this?
Well, it's important that all communities, and especially small communities, don't put their head in the sand about what liabilities are up front ahead of them.
Okay.
It's very easy just to think that your long-term infrastructure is always going to be there. But unless you're putting resources into it in a planned way, you're going to get to a point one day where a lot of your infrastructure has declined and it'll be very hard, very expensive to get it back up to a reasonable condition. So the whole idea about strategic asset management, as we call it, is to plan your future renewals of your infrastructure so that you don't leave it to the last moment. In Australia, we more talk about asset management in a strategic sense. I find that in the States it's more about maintenance management.
Okay.
So we do maintenance management, of course, as well, but the emphasis we place is on strategic asset management. So knowing how much you need to spend on your infrastructure in a planned way going forward.
Gotcha.
And going through that process also helps you convince elected members, your council, to provide that resource rather than just because it's very easy to not fund your maintenance, your renewals. It's always tempting for elected members to more fund new construction, but the majority of infrastructure that we own and that we have to manage is actually what we already own. So this process helps you put a case together to your elected members and maybe to provincial or state governments or federal governments for additional funding.
Very good. Additional questions, additional comments, additional concerns. Don't make me do all the work, ladies and gentlemen. Do you have one? David, we got the mic for you right here.
Thank you. I'm from a small town in New Hampshire, about 6,000 people, where we have the full water, sewer, drain, roads, and we're thinking about starting an asset management program. I'm always in crisis management, and I am concerned that I won't have enough time and effort to make this successful. My question is, in small towns, when it is a successful program, what's the keys for success, and have you seen small towns start doing it and they fail, and what's the reasons for failure?
I think we've just run some workshops in Canada, where in BC and in Saskatchewan, where the provincial government's got us over there to run workshops for 6 to 8 communities as a pilot. We ran, because if you just provide the tools and a book, people struggle. But having the face-to-face workshops where we took people through it over 3 days, in Australia we do it over 2 days, but we're over this way, so we spent a bit more time on the how-to. So at the end of the 3 days, where they had some reasonable asset register data, we had a first-cut asset management plan for them. That doesn't mean that's the end of the show, but it's a really good way to understand the whole process. It's a good way to start to get a feel for what benefits you can get out of it. And that was the feedback we got in Canada, that some of the communities that were involved were, I think, quite surprised at just how effective it was. The ones that were most effective was where you had the finance people and the technical people both in the workshop. Because if you go back and you've just got the technical or engineering people trying to push this barrow, it's a bit hard. But if you've got the finance people involved also, it becomes more of a team approach, and both sides can see the benefit of it.
Have you seen it when it fails? When it doesn't, you start the program and all of a sudden the information doesn't keep coming and it falls apart?
You've definitely got to put some effort in over a period. The aim is to make it so that it's part of your day-to-day run, so that if you can get over that hurdle, so that your asset management plan might even be the first year of, because what we do is the asset management plan is not the end of it. It provides the information that goes into a long-term financial plan. That's why you need the finance people involved as well. And then they can start to fund and manage the finances into the future to fund your renewal. So it's definitely a team approach. I suppose you don't fail so much as you just don't achieve it. But we're finding that the communities we work with in Canada are really enthused about it. And the provincial government there is getting us back in November to do more workshops.
Well, that brings up a really good point. I mean, you developed this in Australia, but now you're taking it to Canada, so it definitely has appeal to those outside of Australia. If people are interested in this or want to find out more about this that are not in Australia, how can they do so?
You can go to our website, www.ipwea.org.au, and search for small communities, and you'll see a page there. Probably the best way is where it comes up from a group at grassroots level, where you can perhaps get a workshop going. I think if you just get the book, it doesn't happen. So what we've done in Canada, I think, is a really good way of getting it going. So there's probably little hotbeds of asset management people that are keen to get implementing asset management in different regions, and it's best to focus on those regions where we might get 6, 8 communities together and work through the program with the 6 or 8 communities.
Neat. If anyone at home has any questions for Chris, go ahead and tweet them to hashtag APWA Expo or go to the lower left-hand corner of your screen and click on the Q&A button. What about here in Denver? Any more questions? Anyone have any stories to share or challenges in their own small, rural, or remote communities?
I suppose another aspect just to mention is about sustainability.
Yeah.
You hear a lot about sustainability, and there's two ways you can look at it. There's the green sustainability side of things, but an important part of asset management and planning or managing your infrastructure is financial sustainability. So we in Australia are placing more and more emphasis on making sure our communities are viable for the future, because if you think about it, the viability of your community really depends on the state of your infrastructure. So it's not just about green sustainability. I think it's important, and it's probably very evident in the States why this is so important, that you need to have financial sustainability and viability. And by going through an asset management process, you know what expenses, what renewal costs you need to provide for in the future, rather than having your head in the sand, ignoring it, continuing on, and then you find you're in a position where your infrastructure is, you're in a very difficult position to try and renew it.
Well, you need to be prepared. You know, you need to know what hurdles you have. You need to know what challenges might come up, and, you know, learn from others that are going through the same challenges and, you know, really help each other out. This sounds very fascinating. Do you have any more workshops currently planned?
Well, we're going back to Saskatchewan in November.
Okay.
And possibly in BC, in Canada as well. We've got a whole national program of workshops in Australia where we do workshops right across the 6 states and territories. We're doing work in our smallest communities up in the top end of Australia, where you need to get in a light aeroplane and fly across to the Tiwi Islands. Or we've got one particular state government department using our templates, our simple templates, to develop up an asset management plan for the whole state road network. So this not only has international transferability, it can also work for small communities, but our fuller program is being used by a state government department to manage the state road network as well. Well, not manage it, but to do some planning into the future.
It's all about planning into the future. We have another question here.
Chris, do you see a way for small communities, like the actual community members themselves, to be engaged in the process so that they can help inform the preparation of the asset management plans?
From my colleague in Australia.
What gave it away?
It gave it away. Well, I think the accent probably gave it away. But it's also not just about asset management. We talk about the 3 elements, and it's really important. There's the stewardship role of your elected members, there's the asset management planning, and there's the long-term financial planning. So even though our program that we're talking about today is on asset management planning, we also have similar programs to target elected members, so that in a simple way, CEOs and elected members can understand the asset management process and the benefits of it. And then once you develop your asset management plan and you put it into a long-term financial plan, that all helps develop your whole community plan, which you might go out to the community and fund. In Australia, there's a number of communities are using this process to justify property rate increases to pay for the infrastructure going into the future.
Okay. Going into the future, we need to plan. We need to have our asset management taken care of. And remind us one more time where we can go find out more information on your website.
ipwea.org.au.
And we'll get that up on that resources tab for everybody at home and for anyone here in Denver who wants to participate in our archive. And Chris Champion, thank you so very much for stopping by and chatting with us about asset management for small, rural, and remote communities. And for everyone in Denver and for everyone at home, stay tuned. Don't go far. In 5 minutes, we are going to have the rescheduled conversation with Barbara McCann, who's the Executive Director of the National Complete Streets Coalition, and we're going to talk about a complete plan for complete streets. So, Chris, thank you very much. Everyone here in Denver, everyone here at home, we'll see you back in 5 minutes. That's 12:20 p.m. Mountain Time.